Look, I need everybody in this room to take a breath, not a quick one, a deep one. Cause sometimes life moves so fast you forget you're the one behind the wheel. Everybody out here racing, screaming, posting, proving, but nobody's really building. We got a whole generation thinking noise equals progress, attention equals achievement, movement equals momentum. But that's not how real success works. Real success, the kind that lasts, the kind that changes families, changes neighborhoods, changes the generations after you. It don't grow in chaos. It don't grow in ego. It grows in patience. It grows in quiet rooms where nobody's clapping yet. It grows in moments when you feel alone, but you keep going anyway, because success lives in patience, not noise. I learned early, you don't win this marathon by being the loudest. You win it by being the most consistent, the most focused, the most disciplined when the world tries to rush you. So tonight I want to break down what that really looks like. And if you take this in with an open heart, this might be the shift you needed. Everybody want to blow up overnight, but nobody want to build. It's wild how the world keeps pushing this idea that success is supposed to be quick, flashy, instant, like if you ain't got results in a week, you doing something wrong. But the truth is, real success is slow. Real success don't care about your deadlines. Real success don't move on your ego. It moves on your readiness, and most people don't want to hear that because patience exposes the parts of you that hustle can't hide. Patience forces you to confront discipline, insecurity, doubt, fear, and the uncomfortable truth that greatness is not an event. It's a process. See, the world sells speed like it's a shortcut, but it's really a trap. You ever seen a business go viral before it had structure? They get flooded with customers, orders, attention, but behind the scenes, they got no systems, no team, no stability. What happens? They collapse. It wasn't the lack of opportunity. It was the lack of foundation. Same with music. You ever seen an artist blow up on a single moment, a single clip, a single trend? They shine for a minute, but the pressure of staying relevant crushes them because they never took time to develop their sound, their identity, their discipline. They wanted a stage, but they never built a backbone. And when success came too fast, it exposed the weakness instead of celebrating the talent. And it happens with people too. You ever seen someone ready for the spotlight, but not ready for the responsibility that comes with it? They force timing, relationships they ain't grown enough for, money they ain't smart enough for, environments they ain't mature enough for. And when it falls apart, it hits harder than the place they started from, not because they were unworthy, but because they were unprepared. Life don't reward speed. Life rewards preparation. Think about bamboo, one of the strongest plants in the world. But when you plant it, nothing happens for years. No sprout, no stem, no sign of life, just dirt. And if you didn't know better, you'd think nothing was happening. You'd think you failed. You'd think you wasted time. But underground, everything is happening. Roots are building. Structure is forming. Strength is developing in silence. That plant is stacking everything it needs, so when it finally breaks through the soil, it don't come up weak. It comes up unstoppable. 80, 90 feet in months, that's not growth, that's eruption. But the eruption could only happen because the roots spent years preparing in the dark. That's how success really works. The season where nobody sees you, that's the season shaping you. The mornings you wake up before everybody else, the nights you stay in while everybody else goes out, the days you studying, practicing, learning, while people laugh like you wasting your time. Those moments look quiet, but they're loud in purpose. They look empty, but they're full of foundation. They look slow, but they're speeding you up for a future you can't even imagine yet. People will swear nothing is happening in your life. They'll call you stuck. They'll call you too slow. They'll call your dreams unrealistic because we live in a time where everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be talked about. Everybody wants to be the center of attention even before they've earned the stage. You got folks out here thinking visibility is the same thing as value, like trending somehow replaces training, like attention is more important than the actual work. But that's a lie the world sells you because noise feels good. Noise gives you a rush. Noise makes you feel like something's happening even when you ain't moved an inch. It tricks you into believing you're elevating when really you're just echoing. But the truth is this: noise is the enemy of mastery. Noise is the thing that keeps you checking your phone instead of checking your progress. Noise is the applause that distracts you before you've even built something worth clapping for. Noise makes you feel busy but keeps you from being productive. And the more you chase it, the further you get from the version of yourself you're supposed to become. Everybody looking for validation from people who ain't even validated themselves. Everybody posting every move because they think the world owes them a reaction. But listen, When you chase attention, you lose alignment. When you chase being seen, you stop seeing yourself. And you can't build greatness from a place where you need approval more than you need growth. Nipsey had a line, "Never let a hard time humble us." But the way he lived, that man made sure he never let applause distract him either. Look at what he did with Crenshaw. He sold that project independently. No major label budget, no corporate machine behind him, no loud marketing circus. Just strategy, just confidence, just pure work. The world called it a genius move because they saw the price tag in the headlines afterward. But that moment wasn't the genius. The genius was the years before that, the late nights in the studio, the ownership mindset, the studying of business models, the consistency when nobody was watching. That's something people forget. Success is always earned privately before it's celebrated publicly. What you do with no audience determines who you become when the world finally tunes in. Mastery takes time. It takes repetition. It takes locking in so deeply that missing a day feels like missing a breath. And noise breaks that rhythm. Noise pulls your eyes off the vision and puts it on the reactions. Noise makes you compare yourself to somebody else's highlight reel instead of studying your own progress. Noise got people quitting paths they were meant for because they didn't get enough likes in the first week. You ever see someone start something powerful, a business, a brand, a project, and then get discouraged because it didn't blow up overnight? That's noise. You ever see an artist change their style just to fit what's trending? That's noise. You ever see someone abandon their real purpose because people didn't instantly clap for it? That's noise. Noise convinces you to trade authenticity for attention. And that's the quickest way to lose yourself. But when you commit to mastery, you stop caring about who's watching and start caring about who you're becoming. You start realizing that the real growth happens in silence. When it's just you, the work, and the standards you refuse to compromise on. It's lonely sometimes. It's slow sometimes. It's frustrating sometimes. But it's also where the transformation happens. Think about a boxer training for a championship fight. The actual fight is maybe 36 minutes long. But the camp, the conditioning, the discipline, months of sweat, sacrifice, and quiet grind. Nobody cheers for those mornings when he's running hills at sunrise. Nobody applauds the hours spent perfecting small movements that look invisible to the untrained eye. But that's the difference between winning and losing, not the stadium, the silence. Your gift works the same way. If you're constantly looking over your shoulder to see who's watching you practice, you'll never reach the level you're capable of. You can't improve your craft if your focus is your audience instead of your execution. You can't master anything you treat like a performance instead of a purpose. And the crazy part, when you finally do hit that level, when you finally break through, people swear it happened overnight. They swear you're lucky. They swear the world just suddenly discovered you. But what they don't know is that you were in the dark for years sharpening blades nobody believed you were even holding. So stay committed to the craft whether they see you or not. Stay focused on perfecting your gift even if nobody claps for it yet. Stay dedicated when the world is distracted because the noise might get people's attention, but mastery is what earns their respect. And when you build something real, something rooted in patience and discipline, you won't need to chase the spotlight. The spotlight will find you. Let them talk. Let them question, let them doubt, but don't let them distract you. You got a purpose that can't be fulfilled through noise. You got potential that can't be activated through attention. Your greatness is tied to your mastery, and your mastery is tied to your ability to stay quiet, stay focused, and stay locked in long after everybody else gave up. Because the loudest person in the room ain't the most powerful. The most focused one is. And when you master your gift, you won't have to announce it. The world will feel it. Most people never see their dreams, not because they're not capable, not because they don't have the talent, but because they keep trying to replace consistency with intensity. They think doing something big one time is equal to doing something small every day. They think showing up loud is more important than showing up often. They think a burst of energy can shortcut the grind, but that's not how greatness is built. Loud bursts burn out, slow consistency compounds. People love the idea of going all in, but they don't love the idea of staying in. They'll work crazy hard for 3 days, talk like they got their whole life figured out, blast motivation, hype themselves up, and then vanish for 3 months. No discipline, no routine, no follow through. They talk big, but their habits whisper the truth. And the truth is, consistency always exposes who's really invested and who's just inspired for the moment. A Harvard study once broke down the habits of top performers, and the finding was so simple that people almost ignored it. The top 1% aren't the most talented, they're the most consistent. They keep going when the excitement fades. They keep moving when their mood changes. They keep building when the results are slow. They show up on the days they don't feel like it, and because of that, they pass the people who only show up when it's convenient. It's not magic, it's discipline. Think about the gym. Anybody can go in one time and lift like a superhero. Sweat, push, strain, post a picture, talk about how they're back on their grind. But that single session won't change their body, won't transform their mind, won't shift their lifestyle. The real transformation happens when someone goes 4 times a week, every week for a year. No big announcement, no spotlight, no noise, just quiet, steady commitment. That's the person whose body changes. That's the person whose mind sharpens. That's the person who sees real results. Slow consistency beats loud bursts every single time. But we live in a world that rewards the loud bursts. People get claps for trying. They get attention for starting. They get celebrated for the idea before the effort. And that's why so many people stop. They're addicted to the applause that comes with beginning, not the discipline that comes with continuing. Starting feels good, but continuing, that's what builds character. Confidence and legacy. Nipsey called it the marathon for a reason, not because it sounds poetic, but because it's real. In a sprint, speed matters. In a marathon, endurance does. The marathon mindset isn't about running faster, it's about refusing to stop running. It's about outlasting the version of yourself that wants to quit. It's about showing up on the ugly days, the boring days, the lonely days. It's about building something brick by brick, even when nobody's clapping for the foundation. Real success is quiet for a long time before it becomes loud. For months, sometimes years, everything looks the same. No big shift, no big win, no major moment. Just small, consistent actions adding up behind the scenes. And because it's not dramatic, most people don't respect it. They underestimate the power of repetition. They underestimate the strength of routine. They underestimate how many tiny steps create a giant leap. Look at athletes. The ones who go down as great aren't the ones who had the flashiest moments. It's the ones who practiced relentlessly every day long before the cameras showed up. Look at entrepreneurs. The successful ones weren't the loudest. They were the ones who kept improving their product, refining their strategy, learning their market day after day. Look at students who become masters. They didn't cram once and become brilliant. They studied consistently until the knowledge became who they were. Think of anyone you admire, anyone you consider successful, disciplined, powerful, impactful. Behind their story is a chapter full of quiet repetition, full of days they didn't feel motivated, full of nights they didn't get recognition, full of choices nobody saw but everybody can feel now. Consistency makes you dangerous. It makes you reliable. It makes you inevitable. It turns someday into today and I wish into I did. You can't fail when you're consistent. You can only grow. Even on the slow days, the effort compounds. Even when progress is invisible, the improvement is happening internally. Even when you feel stuck, the habit is forming. But loud bursts, they give you a quick high and a long low. They make you feel productive, but they don't move you forward. They drain you emotionally. They fool you into thinking effort equals progress, even when your life isn't changing. Consistency is different. It's quiet, but it's steady. It's not glamorous, but it's real. It's not exciting, but it's effective. And the best part, consistency doesn't require perfection. It only requires return. You can fall off and still win. As long as you come back, you can slip and still grow. As long as you don't quit. The marathon mindset is never about being flawless. It's about being faithful. Imagine where you'd be if you stopped starting over. Imagine where you'd be if you chose small daily actions instead of big random bursts. Imagine who you'd be if you stopped quitting on yourself every time progress got quiet. That's the whole message. Your dream doesn't need a perfect version of you. It needs a consistent one. The version of you who shows up. The version of you who chooses discipline over drama. The version of you who chooses habits over hype. Slow consistency beats loud bursts every time, because slow consistency becomes a lifestyle, and once something becomes who you are, you can't lose it. That's how you change your life. That's how you run the marathon. Patience reveals things noise hides, and that's the part most people never understand until life forces the lesson on them. We live in a world addicted to speed. Microwave results, instant validation, quick money, fast recognition. But the faster you move, the more you overlook, the more you rush, the more blind spots you create. And it's in those blind spots where your weaknesses sit, where your insecurities hide, where the truth you keep avoiding waits for the perfect moment to expose itself. Patience doesn't just slow you down, it forces you to see yourself clearly. It exposes your triggers, it shows you your patterns. It makes you confront your habits, your discipline, your real intentions. When you slow down and let things progress naturally, life becomes your teacher, not your ego, not your emotions, not your impulses. Life starts showing you what you need to fix before you reach the next level. You start learning which parts of you are solid and which parts need work. You start understanding why you react the way you do, why you attract certain situations, why certain chapters keep repeating. Patience brings awareness, and awareness brings elevation. Rushing robs you of that. Rushing pushes you into situations you're not mentally or spiritually ready for. Rushing makes you skip the steps that build the strength you'll need later. You ever see somebody get a blessing they weren't ready to handle? A relationship they couldn't maintain? They prayed for love but never learned emotional maturity. They prayed for a partner but still carried wounds they refused to heal. And because they weren't ready, they ended up losing the very thing they begged for. Or someone who gets money before they learn money management. They hit a lick, land a deal, come into a big check, and within months the money is gone, not because they're stupid, but because they never learned the discipline required to hold on to abundance. Wealth is not about what you receive, it's about what you can sustain. And you can't sustain what you haven't prepared for. Look at opportunity. Ever see someone get a position they weren't built for yet? They get the job title, but not the character. They get the spotlight, but not the self-control. They get the platform, but not the emotional resilience. And the pressure crushes them because speed put them somewhere that patience could have prepared them for. Patience builds character. It builds emotional strength. It builds wisdom. It molds your mindset. It reshapes your spirit. It turns your pain into knowledge and your setbacks into strategy. It helps you grow into the person capable of holding what you keep asking for. You want blessings, but can you carry them? You want influence, but can you handle the pressure? You want success, but can you survive the weight of it? Patience is the part of the journey where you become the version of yourself the dream requires. I've seen entrepreneurs who spent years perfecting their product, improving their systems, learning their market, building their team slowly. They didn't rush to compete. They didn't chase hype. They took their time, brick by brick, making sure every part of their foundation was solid. And because they took the long road, they built empires that lasted. Not trends, not moments, legacies. Businesses that survived downturns, survived competition, survived doubt, because patience created resilience. And I've seen musicians who stayed underground for years, sharpening their sound, perfecting their voice, creating a style nobody could imitate. People would ask them, "Why are you taking so long?" They'd say, "Because I'm getting it right." So when the world finally heard them, they weren't just good. They were undeniable. They weren't an accident, they were a force. That's what patience does. It makes you undeniable. It gives you a depth speed can't offer. Some of the most powerful people you admire didn't get there fast. They got there ready. They stayed in the shadows long enough to build something real, long enough to survive the storm, long enough to develop the emotional intelligence, the discipline, the vision, and the strength required to stay there when they arrived. Patience teaches you what speed never will. It teaches you self-control. It teaches you timing. It teaches you to listen instead of react, to build instead of rush, to prepare instead of gamble. Patience slows down your body but sharpens your mind. Speed might make you feel like you're winning, but it's patience that makes you truly grow. And the deepest truth of all is this: patience ain't punishment. It's preparation. It's life saying, "I'm getting you ready so you don't lose what I'm about to give you." It's life telling you, "I'm strengthening your character before I strengthen your position." It's life reminding you that the things meant for you don't come early and they don't come late. They come right when you're built enough to hold them. So don't rush your process. Don't question the quiet seasons. Don't resent the waiting. Everything you think you're waiting for is already waiting for you. It's just waiting for you to become the version of yourself who can handle it without breaking. Patience is the training camp, the preparation phase, the strengthening season. And when your moment comes, when the blessing arrives, you'll hold it with confidence, with gratitude, with wisdom, and with a foundation solid enough to make it last, because you didn't rush for it, you grew for it. Success doesn't come from trying to look successful. It doesn't come from angles, aesthetics, staged moments, or manufactured hype. It doesn't come from trying to convince the world you're further than you are. That's performing. That's pretending. That's energy spent outward instead of inward. And the truth is, the world's full of performers, people who want the recognition but not the repetition, the applause but not the accountability, the spotlight but not the self-work. But performing might get you attention. It'll never get you ascension. Real success comes from becoming the type of person who naturally attracts the results they're chasing. You don't have to force it. You don't have to prove it. You don't have to dress it up. When you grow into the version of yourself who's disciplined, focused, aligned, and intentional, success gravitates toward you. It becomes a byproduct of who you are, not something you chase like it's running from you. And that transformation, it never happens in front of an audience. It never happens while you're trying to impress people. It never happens while you're broadcasting every move. It happens in the quiet phases. The nights when everybody else is scrolling and you're studying. The mornings when the world is asleep and you're sharpening your craft. The days when you disappear from the noise because your growth needs privacy, protection, and silence. Progress that matters doesn't need validation. It needs focus. Nipsey spent years building the Marathon brand before most people even understood the vision, before the billboards, before the headlines. Before the world said his name with respect. The store on Slauson wasn't just a store, it was a message. The tech investments weren't just business, they were the blueprint of ownership. The brand wasn't noise, it was intention. It was a man becoming everything he saw in himself long before the world could see it. That's the difference between performing and becoming. A performer is trying to get noticed, a builder is trying to get better. A performer wants claps, a builder wants progress. A performer changes for the crowd. A builder grows for the mission. And when you finally stop performing for the world, you start performing for your goals. You start showing up differently. You move with clarity. You walk with purpose. You stop chasing every distraction because you understand what it costs you. You protect your peace like it's a bank account. You make choices from vision, not ego. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel because you know what's shown online is the finished song, not the rehearsals, not the mistakes, not the rewrites, not the doubts. You realize you're in a chapter they're not reading, and they're in a chapter you haven't lived, and that destroys the need to compete with anybody but who you were yesterday. You become your own competition, your own standard, your own motivation. You start measuring progress by growth, not by attention, by discipline, not by likes, by alignment, not by speed. And when you really start becoming, the world feels it. Your energy changes, your habits shift, your circle evolves, your decisions get sharper. You stop needing to announce your plans because your progress speaks for itself. And what's wild is the wins that matter most always show up quietly at first. You get a little more confident, you wake up a little more focused, your ideas flow cleaner, your discipline feels less forced, your vision gets clearer. The people who drained you start falling away. The opportunities that weren't for you stop knocking. The ones that aligned start appearing. All of that happens before the world ever sees a result. Success is quiet until it's loud. And by the time it finally gets loud, by the time people start noticing, applauding, asking how you did it, the work has already been done. The battles have already been fought. The discipline has already been built. The identity has already been shaped. The transformation already happened in private. People will call you lucky. They'll call it overnight. They'll try to make sense of your results without understanding your roots. But you'll know the truth. The loud win was born from the silent becoming. And that's the whole point. Stop performing and start becoming. Stop chasing applause and start chasing alignment. Stop trying to prove something and start trying to improve something. Because when the world's eyes are gone and it's just you and your goals, that's where the real work starts. That's where the real growth begins. That's where the transformation happens. The quiet seasons will turn you into someone powerful, someone intentional, someone unshakable, someone who doesn't need to pretend because they've done the work to become real. And when you become that person, the wins stop being moments. They become your lifestyle.